Hi and welcome to another Project Warhammer, and I've made progress. I've done a thing. I have a unit that is ready for the battlefield. Isn't that exciting? And I'm hoping to get other ones done much more quickly now. So for those who haven't been following this, what I've basically done is to start getting into Warhammer again after many years. And thought Skaven first, that was my favourite army. But time, keeps repeating itself. I always sort of get into Skaven first and then realise there are certain problems with it. In this particular case, loads of models, all sorts of things to Allegiance. So I'll switch to Nighthaunt. I talked all about that last time. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the process of this one. I'm also going to explain where I'm planning on going in terms of the building of the Nighthaunt army and where I'm planning on going in terms of other like Warhammer related games as well. So first things first, let's go through some photos. I like the photos. So this is my 700 and something point army, basically, as I assembled them at this point. Basically, a unit of Hex Wraiths, Chain Rasp Horde, Glaive Wraith Stalkers, a Knight of Shrouds on Ethereal Steed, you can see at the back, which I'd intend to have as my general, and a Guardian of Souls, who's like a wizard character, also quite useful as well. So then what I did is texture them. Now, I've been building quite a lot of models and undercoated a number of models, some of which are now not going to get completed for a while, some of which are. The problem is that a few of them I've forgotten to. In fact, I was just building some Necrons a couple of days ago, and I undercoated them yesterday. And forgot to texture them, first of all. Now, with the Plague Monks that I painted more recently, I did the same thing then. I tried to texture them in the same way after. Didn't work very well at all. It didn't. So what I've done is, people were telling me as well when I get back into it, Games Workshop do these like texture paints. There are other ways to texture as well. I was thinking of just blobbing some PVA on it and doing something weird like that. But I thought, well, I'll try the texture paint. So I've sent off for some of those. So they should be arriving after the weekend. For when I forget. But for these ones, it's very important for the army that it's consistent. So every Nighthaunt model, I have to do this. Except there is a bit of an issue with that. You can see the sort of turquoisey ones over there, the Glaive Wraith Stalkers. Now here's the thing. It's going to be a unit of 8 Glaive Wraith Stalkers. There are the 4 turquoisey ones, and there are the 4 greyish ones towards the back. And they look quite different. The models don't, but the bases do. Because the bases and the grey ones are just normal bases, and those other ones have got slight scenic bases. And it's the turquoisey ones that are the boxes that you buy from the store. The other ones are what I got in the Age of Sigmar box set. Terribly inconsistent. I don't like it at all. And I really don't like it. And the other problem is with those turquoise ones, the scenic bases. I'd much rather not have had those. And I know, I could have basically clip them off it and just put them onto some normal bases. And I wish I'd thought of that, and I didn't. I will hopefully think of that for the future ones that I buy. Because I don't like it. It's not going to be consistent with the rest of my army. And also it's going to take me longer to paint, and I'm lazy. The painting is the part of the hobby I'm not keen on. I like to get that out as quickly and easily as possible. But anyway, never mind that. So what I did is the Chain Rasp Horde, first of all, because I thought they're your battle line unit, that's your throwaway unit, but it's also a lot of models, like 20 of these. I thought just try and get these done at experiment. And there were lots of missteps, like I had an initial plan for it. So what I first of all had done at this point was to throw like a purple wash on it. When you look at a lot of the pictures that Games Workshop have done themselves, they tend to have like a greenish glow to them, which I don't like for a couple of reasons. First, it's very evocative of Lord of the Rings stuff. And I don't just mean Lord of the Rings in the game. That sort of green balefire is a feature of the undead in Lord of the Rings in general. And I want to move away from it. And the other thing is, especially with the new lore, all this Age of Sigmar stuff, the colour that's associated with the lore of death is purple. As far as I can tell, reading up on it, I thought, well, I like purple as well. So I've gone for purple. It made sense to me. But I had various plans for it all, and I don't know that it necessarily worked, but it did keep changing is the important thing. It changed and changed and changed again. So it's like going through holiday snaps, isn't it? So then what I did is So you can see basically I'd undercoated them white. I don't normally do that. You can see with this close-up a little bit grainy as well. The white undercoat does not work as well as the black, as particularly in the environment that it is at the moment. You know, really what you want, the irony of this is why I'm so far behind, because for most of summer it was too hot for me to really do anything. But the irony is that's perfect weather for going out and undercoating. So I should have at least built models and gone out and undercoated. If I wasn't going to paint, I should have at least done that, and I didn't. So the day I went out to undercoat these, was a little bit windy. There was a little bit of humidity in the air as well. It wasn't terrible, but it was a little bit. And it didn't seem to take terribly well. There's also, you can see in that model there, because they're basically supposed to be disapparated like cloaks, there's not much to them. They're insubstantial. Lots of nooks and crannies inside them that the undercoat didn't really get into. I didn't really, I wasn't really alive to it. It's basically made a huge mess. But anyway, what I did at this point, as I say, is just did a wash of like a brownish wash on the body parts, and then like dry brush some like a shabty bone on it, and I sort of was going to leave it at that. In terms of the cloaks, I sort of did them as like a dark grey, but with the leader, the one who's sort of holding the candelabra there, I did his black. I mean, he was going to stand out anyway. He's holding a bloody load of candles for a start. But I just wanted it to look a little bit different as well, as if, because I sort of imagined, well, what if he wasn't holding that? How would he distinguish himself from the others? So I sort of like something about the leader of a unit. And not all units in Age of Sigmar have leaders or champion type characters. This one does. So I did that, and as you'll see later on, I did a different thing for the blade as well. So again, sort of... I'm slopping the paint everywhere. You can see I'm not very tidy at all. But where I made a mistake, and this is what bit me on the arse later, is you can see at this point I've done the sort of purpley bits there, then I've done the cloaks. At this point, yeah, by the way, because you think to yourself, hang on, didn't you ink part of their bodies as well? Why did you bother inking them and then paint over purple? It's because I was changing. It wasn't working as I was expecting, so I had to change things. So all sorts of things were getting messed about here. But I should have done the metal much earlier on. And then done the cloak. What I should have done was done the stuff that's on inside of things and worked out. Because I'm not a tidy painter. But anyway. And there's just some of the other ones again. At this point, I've sort of started to paint some of the metal bits on it, but only just started. And I think at this point, I've got most of the actual base coat colours done. Most of it, apart from maybe some of the finer detail. And then what I was wanting to do is to try and dry brush it. So what I did is I dry brushed the purpley bits. I mean, ideally what you do, if you can see on the Games Workshop models, I'm not going to show it here, but you can see those on these models. They sort of do a wet blending thing. So you've got the darkness of the cloaks at the top, and it blends into, well, in the case of Games Workshop, sort of greenish at the bottom, which looks fantastic. But it's not even that I just don't have the skill to do that. Of course, I could practice, but I don't even want to. I'm not someone who's going to say, oh, I'm just bad at painting, that's the way it is. I mean, that's always nonsense. Anyone can learn skills if you want to put the time and effort into it. But I don't. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't. I want to put my time and effort into the things I enjoy about the game, which is when I can't be playing it, planning armies. I'm already planning armies that I know I'm not going to even start building until next year because I enjoy it. I love that. And coming up with strategies. That's one of my favourite parts of the whole hobby. So the painting side of it, for me, rough and ready, I will naturally get better as I get into it. I think another thing as well, there's a key difference between the way I'm approaching painting at the moment and the way I will be approaching painting hopefully in a few months. At the moment, like for example, I told you there's a gaming club, local gaming club here that I want to get involved in. And I was seeing today, for example, someone saying, oh, does anyone want to have a game of Kill Team today? And I'm thinking, I haven't got any models ready yet. I will have soon, but I haven't yet. So at the moment, I don't have armies ready for anything, whether it be Age of Sigmar, 40k, Kill Team, which are the 3 games I'm wanting to get into. And so what I need to do is to build up a force first. And that's still going to take some time. Once I've built up that force, at that point, I'm able to play And then what I can do is I can just focus on a unit at a time. At that point, then you naturally take a bit more care about it. You think about it a bit more because you're not in a rush. Like at the moment, I always feel as I'm in a rush. For every week that I haven't got a force ready, that means I can't be playing games. So it's a very different mindset. So hopefully we'll get better. Obviously, it's important that they are at least tournament standard. I don't know why I put that one in. I think maybe just to show the dry brushing of the lighter purple on the purple at the bottom there, which didn't entirely work. And it's not, I didn't even finish there. I did something else as well, which I don't think improved it, but I left it as anyway. So dry brush some lighter grey onto the cloaks as well. I mean, this is all I'm just doing. My general techniques, you know, have, even before, you know, I would say I was better when I was quitting the game, but I still didn't, it was still fairly basic what I did. Ultimately, it's paint a base coat on, shade it with some ink, dry brush it with a highlight. And that's, for most things, good enough. You know, it's not going to wow anyone. It's not going to stand up to close inspection. But you can put that on a table in a tournament and it's fine. That's what I'm doing there. And so there they are, sort of finished. That's them. As far as I'm concerned, that's it done now. Even painted the borders around the edges so it's all tidy. And then you can see next to them are the Glaive Wraith Stalkers. I've already started to wash their bases. It's all got to be consistent. Because what I've done, can't really see it too clearly there. Can I? Have I got a close up? What I tried to do with the bases, because of this purpley thing, is that's why I washed the purple at the bottom, then dry brushed onto the textured bases a bit of dark grey and then some light grey on top of that. Just so there's a bit of an aura of purple. You know, it's just an attempt at a magically thing. Not convinced it works, but at the same time, it's not disastrous, so I've no problem continuing it for the rest of the army. So that is them. That is my unit of 20, you know, chain rasp horde. There is going to be another unit of 20 at some point in the future as well, where I should be able to... I'll be able to tell with the next lot, the Grave Wraith Stalkers, if I've learnt lessons from painting these, because hopefully they'll be a bit quicker. I mean, in theory it'll be quicker because there's fewer of them, but they are sort of more involved models as well. They're, you know, beefier models, but there's only 8 of them as opposed to, you know, 20 of these. But so yeah, so I'll see what happens. That's a job for this weekend to try and get those done. And then I'll move on to the Hex race and, you know, just get that force done. Get it done. So then what I was looking at is ahead to the 2,000 point army. So let me just explain the reasoning or the thinking behind this. So I may have already gone through this as well, but let's just explain what the plan is. And of course, the plan can change. And this is why I'm not just suddenly going to go out and buy the rest of the units. So what I've got here is... So we can see in the 2,000 point army, there would be 2 units of Grimgas Reapers. At the moment, I actually have one on order because I'm expecting to finish painting the ones I've got. So I'll be needing another unit before the end of next week. So I've sent off for one unit of those, 10 of those. Glaive Wraith Stalkers, that's my next painting job. A Chain Rasp Horde, so they're done. But later on there'll be another one. So there's like... eventually 2 units of Grimgas Reapers, 2 units of Glaive Wraith Stalkers, 2 units of Chain Rasp Horde. There are reasons for this doubling, by the way. It's not because there isn't enough variety in the army. There absolutely is. There is thinking to the madness. A Black Coach and a unit of Hex Wraiths, which I've also got and is just the next one. That's going to be hopefully early next week, painting task. So... So the idea will be is just as and when I'm getting close to finishing my current painting project, send off for another unit or go and, you know, for if I can. The problem with there's no local Games Workshop store, and the one I could drive to, I suppose I could go on it opens late on a Thursday. That'd probably be the best time to go because I absolutely don't want to go there on a Saturday. You know, getting to town early on a Saturday in Grimsby is okay, but it's not open then. It's not open till much later. You know, they're not open really. The opening hours are always very low. I suppose because, you know, it's I don't think they exactly rake it in the stores. I don't know. But anyway, I'm certainly not getting to town for that time because then the parking will be a nightmare. So that's the plan there. Because if I just say, well, okay, this is what I want. So let's order myself the black coach, the other unit of Chain Rasp Horde, the second unit of Grimghast Reapers, 2 more boxes of Glaive Wraith Stalkers. Then I'm getting that, and then let's say I change my mind, or I think of something else. I think of a more cunning plan. Well, then I've got a load of units that I'm now not intended to use. And we end up in a situation, there's 2 issues with this. One, you end up with a load of models that you're not painting. And I'm already getting into that position now. And so I don't want it getting out of hand, which it easily can and has in the past. And 2, I just end up wasting a load of money. And it's not a cheap hobby. This is really expensive. So anyway, so the idea of this as well for 2,000 points is organised into battalions. So battalions, it's like saying, right, if you take these units, they can get a special rule. So these units, 2 units of Grimghast Reapers, 2 units of Glaive Wraith Stalkers, Gordon Bennett, I hate that, and a Cairn Wraith, which is like a hero character, into a unit called Death Stalkers or something. I haven't got the manual here by now. But basically what you do is, with this battalion, after deployment, you choose an enemy unit. And you say, right, that's their focus. And they get bonuses against them. I think they get +1 to hit and wound or something. But they get some bonus when attacking them. In other words, it's their target of assassination. And so what I can do is I can pick out an enemy unit that I intend to get these into combat with, and they get those bonuses. So that would be really useful. But there's another benefit as well, in that Nighthaunt have this rule where for every unit I place down when I deploy, I can set up a unit in reserve, so it goes off later, and then in a subsequent movement phase I can just plonk it down anywhere I like, as long as it's more than 9 inches away from an enemy model. So what I can do, when I've nominated that enemy unit, they might think, oh, I need to protect it. Well, that's fine. I'll just set up. I can set up all of these in deployment, in reserve rather, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 other units as well. So 4 units, so that's fine. The Cairn Wraith, I need to double check that characters are part of this as well. But assuming that characters are part of it, then that's also no problem because I've got 3 other characters too. So that's all good. And then what I can do, if necessary, I can plonk it behind their lines. I don't have to plonk it in. I won't want to delay too much because at the end of the day, this is half my army. I don't want to be spending a significant amount of time with only half my army on the board. It might cause a bit of a problem. But again, it depends on the nature of... See, again, I'm thinking here in terms of pitch battle, but of course there's different scenarios you play. It was very common in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. Even though there were scenarios you could play, it was just common to play a bog standard pitch battle. And another thing is, when I've been watching other battle reports, when I've been looking at photos of battlefields from tournaments, they have been, as I might expect. They're just the sort of things I might expect. But I've been watching some battle reports recently. There's a particular channel in particular, Mini Wargaming, but there's been other ones as well. And they have a lot of terrain in there. It's really like urban combat, for which these will also be very well suited because they can all fly. All of it, the whole army can fly. Nighthaunt, ability. So hugely manoeuvrable. So yeah, I could, if necessary, I could plonk those all behind like that in my turn 1 movement phase, as long as it's more than 9 inches away. That would still allow me to charge it, possibly. I mean, I'd have to be lucky, or use some, movement boosting spell if I think such a thing exists. I have to work that out. But it doesn't matter, even if I can't charge straight away. It will allow me to plonk them down in a position where I can get them into combat with them at some point. So in other words, enemy units are going to find it harder to hide themselves from me because of this. The Chain Rasp Horde is also part of a battalion with the Guardian of Souls. Guardian of Souls is my main wizard, but there are actually going to be 3 wizards in this army. I'll come to that. So the Chain Rasp Horde, working together like that, the main benefit is, with an undead army like this, I want a lot of powers in there to raise units back. So when my models are killed off, they're not necessarily permanently killed off. I mean, the heroes will be, but the unit characters, like the units, won't be. If a whole unit is wiped out, then it will be. But as long as there's one left in it, I can use magic to bring them back. And I've got a number of ways of doing it. Guardian of Souls has the best spell for doing it. And in the battalion, that spell is more effective. To the point where I can easily, if there's Chain Rasp Horde, there's 20 of these. If my opponent kills 10 of them, if I get that spell off, it's called Spectral Law, then with the battalion rules, and also with a magical, like an artifact of power I'm going to give it, I will get an average of 10 back. So if they kill 10, I could bring those 10 back in one fell swoop. Will not only be psychologically damaging to my opponent that they've done all that with, oh great, I've killed 10 of them, and it's like, back. But also just the fact that it will keep them up there. And I intend of these, even though, you know, they've got 2 attacks and hits on 4s and wound on 3s, so they can potentially do some damage. The main purpose I have of these is gumming up the works. You know, assaulting something nasty on my opponent, if I can. Obviously, they're not hugely manoeuvrable because they'll be, you know, although they can fly, they're not fast. But if I can gum up the works and stop something of theirs charging around and doing whatever it likes. So that's a plan there. The Black Coach is just my behemoth. I think the way I look at armies, when I look at other people, they always seem to have something in there. Something big that can get around really easily, do a lot of damage, take a lot of wounds. And this is no exception. But it's very appealing. It looks very powerful. It's certainly something that will scare the bejesus out of an opponent, I'm sure. And then the Hex Wraith, my mounted unit, there's only 5 in it, so I have to be ultra careful with these, that I'm trying to keep them topped up. Although they've got 2 wounds each, it's like, it might only be 5 models, but it's equivalent of 10 wounds worth. I can't have, you know, because they're my these 2 super maneuverable. Now, the way I've got it set up, you might almost think, and again, this is what I've been questioning recently in terms of the way you can set up an army. Because I always used to think for fantasy battle in terms of a centre, a left flank and a right flank. So the Chain Rasp Horde are my centre. The Grimghast Reapers and the Glaive Wraith Stalkers are my left flank. And I've got a Speedier, Black Coach and Hex Wraith on the right flank. Obviously, for the deployment, I'm not saying that's how I plan to set it up. You never plan a deployment as such. You need to be reactive in some sense to what your opponent does and what the battlefield is and what the scenario is. But again, just with Age of Sigmar rules, with the fact that, because the reason why it's important to think of in terms of flanks is because you don't want to, you know, if you can get to someone's flanks, you can charge into them. Well, when it's a skirmish game, there are no flanks. They don't exist. So, you know, it's not also necessary to think in terms of that as well. Other than the fact you don't want to you can still get trapped in a pincer movement and have multiple units around you. But, you know, other than that... Now, the other thing is, the other real point of interest here is that so in terms of the characters, you've got the Cairn Wraith. Now, I'm planning on giving it an artifact of power that turns it into a wizard. So this would be a wizard. And the Guardian of Souls is a wizard. Now, you know, I think it's important in an undead army to have a good, you know, command of magic. But I quite like magic anyway. But I also have a third one. Now, what I was originally going to do is just have 2 Guardian of Souls. Or 2 Guardians of Souls, I should say, I suppose. But to begin with, the issue was you can't get that model anymore. I have a model, but that came with the Age of Sigmar box set. But then, because it's a newish army, they haven't got all the models just available yet. I can't just go to Games Workshop and say, all right, on another Guardian of Souls model, please, because they haven't got them. Now, okay, some people were sort of suggesting, well, people are selling these things on eBay anyway. They've bought their box set, but they're breaking up all the sprues they don't want. All right, fine. But the thing is, at the point at which I thought, okay, so I can only have one Guardian of Souls. And the thing is, although there's a really good selection of heroes in this Nighthaunt army, only one of them's a wizard. Only the Guardian of Souls is a wizard. None of the others are wizards. Okay, there's an artifact of power you can give to one that will allow it to become a wizard. Fine, that's great. But to have no other choices seems, for an undead army, strange. But then I hit upon an idea, which was, in the end, better than having two Guardians of Souls. I think so anyway. This is my current plan. A Vampire Lord. A Vampire Lord, that is not in the Nighthaunt allegiance, but it is an acceptable allied allegiance. Now, being an ally means that it misses out on certain things. It doesn't get access to any of the army's battle traits. It's a wizard, so that's great, but it doesn't get access. Normally what you have with wizards is they all get the two standard spells, or usually Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield, which are decent enough. Sometimes a particular wizard character gets its own spell as well, like the Guardian of Souls gets Spectral Law, that's specific to it. The Vampire Lord doesn't. Normally what happens is you choose a spell from a law associated with your allegiance, your army, but that doesn't apply to an ally. So he'll only get those two spells, but that's actually okay because Mystic Shield is a decent defensive spell, and Arcane Bolt, I wouldn't say is an amazing offensive spell, but it is, every little helps. But the thing that was particularly appealing about the Vampire Lord for me, it's exactly the same points as the Guardian of Souls. Not only is it a level 2 wizard, potentially not as effective as Guardian of Souls because it doesn't have as big a range of choices of spells, because my Guardian of Souls can basically have a choice of 4 spells, Vampire only 2. It's better at fighting, so when it gets to combat, it's better at that. Even though the Guardian of Souls does provide buffs to nearby units, it's very useful support. But the other thing about the Vampire, and this is spectacular, so each turn, if I plonk myself within a certain range of friendly units, I can't remember, it might be 9 inches, something like that, but it might be even 6 inches, it might have to be fairly close. I can select up to 3 friendly units and heal D3 wounds for each. Bring back D3 with models for each. And it's not a spell, it doesn't have to be cast, there's nothing my opponent can do about it. It just happens each turn. And that's amazing. So again, and that's what I need, the cumulative effect of multiple ways of just bringing models back to life to keep my units, which are not huge. These units are pretty much minimal, even though in theory the the Glaive Ray Stalkers, you can have them as units as small as 4. I've made them 8. 8's not a huge number. They've only got 1 wound each. Grimghast Reaper's only 10 in there. Chainmask Horde 20, but the 20, is a decent size, you could argue. But the whole point is just trying to keep everything alive. And the Hex Wraiths, as I say, 5 models. All right, 10 wounds. So it's equivalent of a unit of 10. But still. But obviously another good thing about them, Nighthaunt, is that they are quite resilient because they all get a 4+ save, which can't be modified. Because normally your save is modified by the rend value if there's a particularly nasty attack. Theirs can't be modified. It's the ethereal ability, because they're basically ghosts. So that's always good. So whenever they get wounded, it's always a 50-50. Well, in fact, better than that. Unless there's a mortal wound. But even in the event of a mortal wound, which bypasses the save, they all also get effectively what in old money would have been called a ward save, but a 6+ ward save. But however it goes, if they fail that save and there's going to be a wound applied, they can still roll and save it on a 6+. Which is okay, a 6+ is not likely, but when you consider, the whole army, eventually it's going to save the odd one. And as I say, in a situation where while ever there's anything left alive in that unit, I've always got a chance of bringing the models back and bringing it back up to strength. Every save is valuable. So that's the plan there. That is what my current plan is. Obviously, things could change. That's why it's important I maintain discipline and only order 1 unit at a time and wait till I've basically know I'm going to have it finished painted, then get the next one and so on. In terms of other things, For Kill Team, I've got some Necron models recently, so I've made and undercoated those. I was originally going to go for Death Guard like Plague Marines. Issue with that is they're a bit more full on with the painting, even though I think I can do them in a relatively basic way. I will eventually move up to them. But Necrons, see, there's a multiple advantage, and Necrons is going to be the first one I do for full on 40k as well. I used to like playing Necrons before. Necrons and Death Guard were always my two favourites. Necron, I mean, you could argue, I could, if I wanted to justify it, just say, well, Necron weapons are named after famous physicists, so of course I should be playing those. But the reality is that when you're a particularly lazy painter, you can do a bog standard painting job on them and they look great. You know, they look pretty good. As long as you tidy, it doesn't take a lot of effort. There's not a lot of cunning technique. You can use cunning techniques and they'll look even better. But you can also just undercoat black, dry brush different metallic colours, a few washes here and there, jobs are good, and then they'll look great. They'll look absolutely magnificent. And that is the plan there. So I've already got the Kill Team. I just need to paint them. That should be done next week. So basically what I'm saying is come next Friday, I should definitely have a Kill Team squad ready to go for the local gaming club, and I'll also have my small Nighthaunt army, not good enough to play games at gaming club because it's too small, but at least maybe I can get that game with that friend that I was supposed to be organising ages ago, but I've been too lazy and too hot. So there we are. That's I've been going on long enough on that one. That's where we are at the moment. It's all looking a bit more hopeful now that the weather has cooled down a bit, and I should be able to show more rapid progress, I think, from now on. So thanks very much for sticking if you've made it this far. Comment down below, of course, with any little suggestions that people have as well, because I'm always learning. Like if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe for further content. And until next time, I will see you later.